and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's guest is very special. It's Dr. Jason Hamilton. He's a director of facial plastic surgery at the Osborne Head and Neck Institute, based at Cedars-Sinai Medical Towers in Beverly Hills. Now, Dr. Hamilton attended Duke University and did a fellowship through the AAF-PRS. He's also held several teaching appointments as an attending surgeon and clinical faculty member in the Department of Surgery at Cedars-Sinai, where he teaches facial plastic and reconstructive surgery. Now, he's also lectured internationally, and he's published over 54 peer-reviewed scientific articles and book chapters. And Dr. Hamilton specializes in primary and revision African-American rhinoplasty, while pioneering new methods designed specifically for the Black nose. Now, his goal is to give his patients a beautiful nose that will always look natural throughout their entire life. That's no easy feat. Now, he's been honored with numerous awards and is considered one of the top African-American rhinoplasty surgeons in the country and probably the world. Now, he's an academic mentor to high school students. He goes on missions. He gives back by working with several humanitarian organizations, such as Face to Face, the National Domestic Violence Program, and Faces of Honor. Dr. Hamilton, welcome to Beauty and the Biz. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. And thanks for that great introduction.
Well, there was a lot to go through. I mean, I had been researching you and I thought, dear Lord, this guy's been around. And you look a lot younger for all of your achievements, but congratulations for that.
Well, we're definitely in the right business to keep looking younger.
Right? So you have to start me out with, how did you say, were you a little boy saying, I want to be a facial plastic surgeon, or how do you get to that?
Yeah. So initially, I'm originally from Jamaica. That's where I was born. So we immigrated to Florida, and I had an interest in science, and I like kids. Those were my interests. So I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician. No one in my family's in medicine, and so when I got to medical school, you get introduced to the different specialties. So my passion very quickly was anatomy, and I loved the head and neck area. And I started spending time kind of playing hooky in the days because our lectures were recorded. So I would listen to them at night. And in the day, I would go hang out with the surgeons in the hospital and try to figure out what I want to do with my life. And so hanging out and spending time with some of the reconstructive head and neck surgeons, where they were rebuilding jawbones, rebuilding tongues, pharynxes, cheeks, doing trauma surgery. That's where I really got my passion and interest in becoming a facial plastic surgeon. I didn't know that you would go through ENT to get to that point. So that was a surprise. But ENT is where you learn about all the anatomy of the head and neck, and obviously all of the cosmetic and plastic surgery procedures. So I really got passionate about, in my ENT training, about sticking with plastics. And I was really, really interested in the reconstructive side of things. I had no cosmetic interests whatsoever. I wasn't thinking about being a quote unquote plastic surgeon. I only wanted to deal with reconstruction. And then that kind of morphed as time went by. Patients who I had done some reconstructive procedures would come back and ask for cosmetic procedures. They in turn would bring family members who I would accept as patients because it was a direct referral. And then, I became passionate about that. And then things just kind of took a natural course from there.
So were you ever in solo practice, or did you go straight from the hospital and then join Osborne Head and Neck? How did that transition happen?
Yeah, I was never in a solo practice. I think our practice is kind of a hybrid because we publish a lot. We have a foundation that does mission work, throughout the world. We are involved with training of residents and even mentoring college and high school students. So when I was training in my residency, that's where I actually met Dr. Osborne. He was a chief and then our attending. And I was a first year general surgery resident coming into the program. That's where we met. And we kind of gained a lot of respect for one another. We started writing papers and presenting at that time. And then when I was going to graduate and start my fellowship, he was starting out here at Cedars-Sinai. And at that time, he was the first director of head and neck cancer at Cedars-Sinai. And so when I was going to graduate, he kind of pulled me to the side. And he was like, I know you're going to hear a lot of stuff, but I think we should work together, right? And I kind of said, how? You're an oncologist. How are we going to work together? It's never going to work. And we basically came to the conclusion that the most important thing, and I think this is important for all docs or anyone in business, is that if you have someone who is dedicated, enthusiastic, hardworking, intelligent, affable, and your friends, then you can find common ground to build something up, and that might not be worth letting go to work with someone who just happens to be in your specialty, but you don't have anything in common, So we just made a decision that we're going to figure out how we're going to work together, right? And we started doing that while I was a fellow. We started building websites, figuring out how we were going to kind of take the world by storm, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I graduated, I came here, and I've been here ever since.
No kidding. When I looked at your website, whoever did your branding was kind of magnificent, because it looks very hospital accredited. Like I thought it was a hospital because of the way you have done it. And it wasn't your usual, like there are no social media logos. It's very educational, straightforward.
Yeah.
Serious, you guys are not clowning around on this thing. And
Yeah.
I thought, how interesting, because was that the point to look, and also calling yourself Institute also helps. But was that the point to not be the typical solo practice going after all the cosmetic? You want it to be a teaching institute,
Yeah.
training. Was that the point?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. So just coming out and getting started, we figured that if we just do what everybody else does, right,
Yes.
there are going to be two problems. One, we're in a big market. So we're not in a small or mid-sized city. We're in Los Angeles, which is equivalent to New York or Dallas or Miami. So we're in a big market. Everyone is already doing what you're thinking about doing very well, right? And that's why you have an interest in being there, because that's where the consumers are. So we quickly identified, just from our training again, that we had interest and talent in areas that our colleagues probably didn't have a big interest in, or shied away from because the surgeries took a long time, or at the time they didn't reimburse well, or they couldn't figure out how to integrate it into their practice. But we started in that place. We said, we're not going after anything, or we're not going to take any interest in things that everybody's doing, right? And so that's a slow process, right? But it has a future. In our minds, it has a future. And that's why our branding and our logo, we wear white coats, preferentially we wear white coats. We don't wear suits. We have a kind of clinical looking office, like a hospital. We don't have marble on the floors, because that's not what we're conveying, and that's not what we're selling, and that's not what we're giving patients. What we're trying to convey is that we're kind of super specialists. We have a passion for what we do. If you are in need of our services, we're going to approach this at the highest level, and you can be assured that we have training, we have research background, and that you're going to be getting delivered the highest level product. And that's our focus. So I'm glad to see that's your impression of what our branding is, and because that's exactly what we want it to be.
Well, I think it's working for you, because if I'm not mistaken, you have 8 surgeons now at this point. Where are you going with this? And you're probably doing a lot of reconstructive as well as cosmetic, or how is that divvied up in your practice?
So one of the things is that everyone coming into the practice is pretty much doing something different, and so for myself, just organically, I probably work with my partner doing reconstruction on all his cases. And then in my practice, I'm mostly focused on rhinoplasty and some reconstructive things with the nose, like fixing septal perforations. That's one of my big things. And then the side interest, just because I love sports, and we've actually treated a lot of athletes, like Stephon Johnson.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that next.
Yeah. And so that's kind of my passion. So we have the professional sports athletes that we take care of, myself. Then we do the reconstructive surgery, and then the rest has been kind of whittled down and focused to mostly rhinoplasty and reconstructive nasal surgery, and specifically for the African, descent population or ethnic rhinoplasty.
So back to running a practice, it's difficult enough for two surgeons to make a decision and have the same vision. So kudos to, Hamilton and Osborne. Good job there. But when you bring on a bunch of others, how difficult is it for you to keep that brand intact? Make sure everyone has the same values, they have the same vision. Does it get more difficult as you add more surgeons?
I think actually it's the opposite.
Oh,
right. So it actually has been easier as we've added more surgeons, because we look more the brand, as we've become larger, right? So what I mean by that is when it's the two of us, we have an idea, right? We have an idea. When there's six of us, we have a brand, and this is kind of the way. These are the jerseys that the Rams wear. This is the locker room. These are the shoes we wear. We run this kind of offense. And it's easy to recruit and bring people in when you're very organized. And so we focus on being organized, sticking to the brand, not deviating from that ourselves. And then so when you're bringing in new people, it just seems like this is how the organization is. So I liken it to if you joined the University of XYZ. You wouldn't think that you could change your badge to whatever you wanted. I'm going to park where I want to park. No, they're going to tell you where you're going to park. These are the coats you wear. These are the color scrubs. You're not allowed to wear, jackets with hoodies. There's all the rules. You're going to get a flu vaccine or have a good reason. And so actually the more people we've added, the more solid the branding has been, and easier it has been to get conformity. And then when we were interviewing people, you're saying, this is what we're looking for. This is what we're all doing. Are you interested in that? And some people are not, because as we were, speaking before, which we'll talk about, everyone doesn't want to super focus or pick something that they want to go after, because it's scary. It's scary to just say, I'm going to focus on like eyelid surgery or ptosis surgery, because you really have to have an acumen for it to build that practice, and kind of just let everything else go to the wayside. And that can be a scary venture.
So how difficult has it been getting staff? I know all we're talking about this year we're still having major staff challenges, not just finding them, but finding the right people who have the right, discipline, whatever. Are you also finding that, or has your branding done so well that you're attracting really key players?
I think we, knock wood, we were extremely lucky, because at the timing of COVID, which I think is where this great resignation and I call it the great reconsideration as well. Like, people are thinking about their lives and how they want to live it, right? Yeah. And work is a big part of that. I think that we had some, I wouldn't call them lifers, but we had a critical number of people who had been here for at least 10 years already, right? So 90% of the people that were here when COVID hit had been here for 10 years, so we didn't have a lot of turnover, and everyone is still here. So we didn't feel that those effects of having to get new people and having staffing issues, et cetera, because it pretty much held our core group. Some people decide to do different things, for various reasons. Like, well, I know you guys are still open. I don't want to come into contact with COVID patients. So that's legitimate, But I think going forward, I think staffing, as we continue to expand or grow, I think staffing will be an issue. I think that's something that's hard to resolve for most practices. However, I think we've all embraced technology, just like how we're talking right now. Technology is really allowing you to have close communications with your patients that it wasn't accepted or as easy, as before. And I think with technology, you can kind of automate some things, and then kind of focus on getting great staff. So instead of two good staff members that you can add a great or an exceptional one, and technology can help that member do their job and facilitate communicating with patients. In my opinion, that's my opinion.
For sure. Well, one thing I have noticed with surgeons, they do, if given the choice, would rather hide out in the OR and never deal with staff or processes or KPIs or SOPs. They don't know what that is. They don't want to know what that is. But in your practice, just the feel I get after doing a lot of research on you, it feels like you guys just have this under control. It feels you're very mellow. I love that. Your website's very organized. It just feels very organized, as you said. Do you have a management team behind the scenes that's running all this and making this run I'm always trying to help practices run a smooth, like a Swiss Army knife, who's in the back end?
Well, most of it, I would say, to the credit is my partner, Dr. Osborne. He's very hands-on, and I would say, in a business sense, he's slow to hire, right, and quick to fire.
Well, that's what they always say, but we don't do it that way.
Yeah, most people don't do it that way, and so it's really hard for you to get in here, if not impossible, right? And so it attracts people who have similar mindsets and are trying to kind of build a career and not just jump from job to job. And people grow while they're here. So I think that's very attractive. So he does have a good handle on it. And then behind the scenes, we also have great office manager who's been with us since the beginning. And we have good business and patient coordinators. Really keep the three key positions. So office management, business, and patient coordination. Those individuals have been with us for 15 years plus. And so that has probably been the key to our success. I would love to hide in the OR under a blanket, anytime I could. But Dr. Osborne and those key people have really made all of our lives, including their own lives, better just by being so solid and present in the practice. So yeah, I think that's really important. Turnover can kill a great practice, and so if you can hold on to great staff and make people feel like they can grow in your organization, then it really takes stress off of you.
And it really is the secret to this, the consistency and the continuity of having staff that like working together and know how. You can just feel it in an office. You can feel how it's all working like clockwork. A few hiccups here and there, but that overall, when you're on your game, when everyone's on their game and they know their role, there's nothing more beautiful than that. Yeah. So I want to ask you technically some of these questions. What percentage of your practice is rhino versus face and neck cosmetic surgery?
I would say 99%.
Is rhino?
99%.
Yeah. Of those rhinos, how many are cosmetic versus reconstructive?
I would say 75% cosmetic and 25% reconstructive.
Gotcha. And then how many rhinos per year are you performing?
I would say, if I added it up, so about 250.
That's what I was going to say, right around 250 or 3. Yeah. How many revision rhinos? Could you have picked a more difficult procedure? Most surgeons are very risk averse. You apparently came from another pool. You can't do anything more risky. Doing rhinos, then doing rhinos that are great for a lifetime, because you know they're going to come back to haunt you, what, 5 or 10 years later at the time. So I'm sorry, I had to go off on that. What possessed you, though, to pick rhinoplasty of all?
Well, I agree with you about those elements that it is a tough population. It's a tough surgery. A lot of plastic surgeons consider it one of the toughest surgeries because it's a singular unit, right? So you have two eyes, you can be distracted left and right, but the nose is right in the center. But it's just the challenge, it's very interesting. It does not become mundane. Everyone's nose is different. It's a combination of mom and dad to different percentages. And you're creating a unique product for each patient. It never gets boring. And so that's the surgical challenge, right? Then there's also the challenge of trying to actually help the patient, right? I learned very early that the results don't really matter, right? Because everyone's nose looks different. So the results don't matter as much as the results that the patient is looking for, right? So we can all think it looks great. The patient may have some small complaints about asymmetries that you may not even see that they really want to be addressed, and they have a difficult time being happy with anything that you deliver to them or any surgeon delivers to them. And then you have patients who are looking for minor things where you as a surgeon are like, no, we can fix all of these things, right? And they're like, no, I just want this little bump that I never had before, I got hit with the baseball. I just want you to take that down and I'll be happy. And so the outcome is in the eye of the patient. It's not in your eye. And that is actually what's brought more satisfaction to my practice, is not worrying about the surgery as much, which I've worried about to no end. It's about worrying about, can I make this patient happy? And if I can't, it doesn't matter what it looks like, right? If it's the best nose on the face of the earth, if I can't make them happy with that nose, then they're not ready for surgery yet. And that's been the biggest thing that's helped me. And if they can be happy with a nose that I can deliver, or even any surgeon could deliver, then they may be at that time a good candidate to have a revision surgery or a primary surgery. And that's really been the key. As you're learning, you don't know how to take down a hump. You don't know how to get the tip right. So you are concerned about that, as you should be. But I'm telling you, equally or that what trumps that is figuring out, should I operate on this patient? And when you're getting started, you want to operate on everyone because you don't have any patients. So that's what gets you in trouble, I think. But if you can resist that urge to just operate and really focus on, is this a good candidate, then it can be very rewarding. And then if you're picking good candidates, then it's the best surgery. It's the most satisfying. You can operate on patients from 16, 17 in female, 17, 18, 19 in males, until they're, I have 7-year-old patients that break their nose. So you have a wider range of feasible patients that you can operate on, right, who are healthy. Facelifts are older population. Fillers are, some people are getting fillers very young now, but fillers, fat transfer, blepharoplasty, that's an older population. So it's actually a wider market, and that's also attractive from a business standpoint to me.
But getting back to the patient, now you've had so much experience, you probably don't remember, but were you trying to get into the emotional mindset of a patient is difficult at best. So oftentimes I've asked a surgeon, somebody who's been sued, I said, what did you learn from that? He said that I should have trusted my gut. I knew something was wrong. I thought I could handle it, and I couldn't, or it came from left field. I don't know what happened. I don't know why this went so sideways. So are there any pearls there that you learned? Do you have them take a test? Do you have them go to a psychiatrist? Are there any telltale signs that now you flag immediately and go, uh-oh, this isn't going to work out?
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit of each. So one, your gut. If you don't feel good, if it's not a good, you are not obligated to do the surgery because someone booked a consultation, and you just have to be okay with that. So feelings will be hurt. You may have to part ways. You do it kindly, professionally,
and give them back their consultation fee.
and give them back their fee,
Yeah.
and then just be clean. You give them back their fee, and it's clean, right? No harm, no foul. So that's just the gut feeling. The second thing is that are red flags are speed, right? Someone who wants a rhinoplasty, they've had this nose their entire life, but they, for some reason, need to have surgery within 3 weeks or 5 days or a month, or it has to get done because my birthday's coming up and I've been waiting my whole life for that. That speed is going to put the patient in a position where they're not processing all the steps that are coming with, specifically rhinoplasty. Rhinoplasty is getting a graduate or a master's degree. It's a 2-year process, right? You're not going to be healed in a week, right? And so the speed, the rushing, no, I have to get in now. I'm in town. I just flew in, and then I want to have the surgery before I fly out on my vacation. Those are red flags. That's where problems are going to come from. Just speed, right? And then patients who aren't really willing to kind of go through the process and not following directions before you even do the surgery. If you say, can you submit your operative reports from your other case? It's been 4 months. They never get them in. They come in for surgery and say, oh, I just couldn't. I don't know what's going on. They can't get pictures from before their surgery. That's a red flag. Like you don't have any pictures from before, that can be a red flag for you. Just having difficulty getting information. They don't get their H&P. They're having problems getting labs. All of those things are potentially little points where you can overlook it as just something minor, but those things are going to happen after the surgery as well, and then it becomes a big problem. So I think your gut, impatience, and then the patients that are not following your protocol that you set, or they want to modify your protocol. No, I want my sutures out in 5 days, and you always do it in 7. I want my cast off the 3rd day because I need to travel, and that's not going to be good for me. They're trying to modify everything that you're doing, then that's going to continue after the surgery. So when you look back, like how you asked your other clients, when you look back, there are red flags the whole time. It didn't really come out of left field. There were red flags. Now, sometimes a red flag may pop up right the day before surgery or the morning of surgery, and you may not have the courage to call it quits at that point, but you should. I've canceled someone on the gurney rolling into the OR because they've changed they keep changing what they want. I want to take, no, I don't want to take it down. No, I want to leave that. No, I don't want to do it. I'm like, you're not ready, and I'm very polite. I just say it's probably not a good time right now, the most patient, every time I've done that, those patients specifically have turned out to be like the best patients ever,
nice.
Right? Because they will go back and thank you and say, I wasn't happy about things, but then I processed what happened, and I think you were right. I wasn't actually ready. Now I have clarity about what I want to achieve. I appreciate you doing that. And then you have a great relationship. So even someone who seems like they're potentially, a difficult patient for themselves or for you can turn into a good patient. They may need to see a psychiatrist. They might need a therapist. I had an aha moment walking my dog one day, right? And we're all trained, and you probably advised, and you just mentioned it or alluded to it. Like, how do you avoid difficult patients? How do you avoid patients that maybe have body dysmorphia that you're just not going to be able to help them with a knife, right? That's not the problem. You're not going to be able to help them with a knife or a laser or a procedure. There are other things that they need to work on before they consider doing that. And so these are the things you need to do. What are the red flags? Ask other doctors what are the red flags. And my aha moment was, no, that's actually not the right thing to do. When someone comes in and we do their labs and they look like they're a diabetic, we all stop and we send them to the endocrinologist. We don't try to figure it out, right? We don't. That's not what we do. We're not the expert. There's a whole specialty for that, right? If someone comes in, and I've had that, and their HCG is positive, like they're pregnant the week up, we stop. We send them to the OBGYN. We say, figure out what's going on. Congratulations. We'll see you when you're ready to have surgery. We don't try to handle it. If someone's thyroid is high, preoperatively, we send them to the endocrinologist again. If someone has a blood dyscrasia, their coags are off, we don't try to figure it out. We send them to the hematologist. They get it worked up, and then they come back. If they have tachycardia, we send them to the cardiologist. But if they're depressed, or they've had too many surgeries, or you're not sure that their goals can be met, we try to figure it out. And that's not what we should do. We should send them to a therapist or a psychiatrist, right? That was kind of my aha moment. So I don't try to figure it out. I'm not trying to manage anyone's body dysmorphia myself just because I'm a plastic surgeon. That's something that needs to be managed by a therapist or a psychiatrist. And maybe they can have treatment just like people may have short times where they're depressed. But maybe 50% of patients with true body dysmorphia can have procedures with therapy and setting the standard about what we're going to do. We're going to do one surgery. We're not going to go back and keep doing things and adjusting. And I think that can be very helpful for practice. So you shouldn't try to figure out how to manage, difficult patients. Before, if you sense it, you can ask them, hey, I'm not sure that you're confident about what procedure goals you want to reach. And I think that I would like you to see our therapist or our counselor, to kind of help you manage those and make sure that we're communicating effectively, and that we at absolute minimum, we want to meet your goals, but we'd like to exceed them. If the patient's response is, right, I'm offended, absolutely not, then you probably avoided something, right? If their response is, okay, then that's probably a good patient, even if they don't need it, right? Or they just need one session. You're probably going to avoid some difficult patients like that. So you can use that to test the water, so to speak. I've had patients who have cardiac issues, and I'm like, I think I need you to see a cardiologist, and they don't want to do it, and it's no problem. We're not doing surgery. Like, we don't even think anything of it. But if it's something with mental disease or something where someone has body dysmorphia, we feel a little bad internally about sending them away, right? But we shouldn't. We actually should help them and get them the right services they need, just like we would with a diabetic or a thyroid patient or anyone else that's preoperatively having surgery workup.
I know words matter, and I don't know if you can do this, but maybe call them a cosmetic coach instead of a psychiatrist, just not to offend people, because especially women are really funny about being labeled certain things. Yeah. Actually, everybody is probably. But I have noticed, just being in this industry as long as I have, if you add several women will not use the word facelift. They can't say it. They'll say, I just need a little something, something down here. You're like,
low nip and tuck.
Yeah, they cannot say facelift. And I think, how interesting. So anyway, so then you try to figure out other words to say that's more comfortable for them. Anyway, so having said all of that, what do? You have to have tips for the unhappy patient, the one that they've had surgery, you think they have a fantastic result, or maybe you don't. I mean, maybe it wasn't your best work, but any tips for how to make them happy? Because that can go down this long road of stuff.
Well, I think one, you want to be responsive. You want to respond to their complaints or their desires to follow up with you or show you what's going on. If the patient's talking to you, then you still have the patient.
Right.
So you should avoid middlemen, right? Or middle person.
Right.
don't put someone in between you and the patient. You should be talking to the patient yourself. That decreases their angst. If someone has a problem, they don't want to feel like they can't get to their doctor, right? If you can, bring them in person, or look at them face to face. The video is better than a phone call, right? And then have them point out in detail what is bothering them. If the concern is really just a matter of time, let's see how things pan out, then you just keep close follow-up with them. If it's something that you need to fix, or you feel like, yeah, I could have done that better, you just need to tell them, we need to fix that right away, no hesitation. And then work. Many surgeons may have a difficult situation as far as getting people back to the operating room or getting things taken care of. I'm lucky that we can just take patients back to surgery pretty easily. But if you need to take someone back, just take care of it. If you can do it without any cost, that's preferable, and then because that doesn't become part of the problem, right? And then just continue close follow-up, and usually you can resolve most issues that way, right? If you and when things actually need to be fixed, then you can fix them, right? Now, if someone has slipped through the cracks, right, and it's just a difficult patient, and you can't find what to fix, or you're having communication breakdowns, then you definitely want to just have let everything kind of cool off, and then you definitely want to have a face-to-face conversation with that patient. That's your best bet. And then at the end of the day, there's going to be one patient every 5 to 10 years that it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to be able to satisfy their needs. And if you come to that conclusion, you may have to have an honest conversation about that too. But that shouldn't, if you're being cautious, you're doing what's best for the patient, you're looking for red flags, you're not rushing in to do surgery, it shouldn't be more than one every 10 years, but it's impossible for you. If you just look at the numbers, it's impossible for you to avoid that. In a restaurant is going to have a customer who's upset. It's impossible for you not to. So it's impossible for you to deal with a specialty where it is medicine, but there's nothing functionally wrong with the majority of the patients, right? So nothing is actually wrong, right? They're making a choice. They're basically shopping, and to think no one is going to have buyer's remorse ever, right? No one's going to want to, I did like that TV, but maybe I could have got it cheaper. I want to take it back. Is there anything wrong with TV, sir? No. But with plastic surgery, you can't take it back. But those feelings are still inside human beings, right? And so it's impossible to avoid a hiccup with a patient, but you should be doing everything you can to avoid having problems or conflicts with patients. You should be looking for red flags. You should take your time and slow down, right? Be more concerned with doing a good job, trying to find out if you can make patients happy instead of just trying to do procedures and build your practice, because you'll build it up and you'll backslide, if you have problems with too many patients. And so it seems like it's exciting, and you're in the little fever. You have the fever, the practice growth fever, but you don't want to go faster than you can actually still be a doctor and take care of your patient.
For sure. And in your case, I would think quality is better than quantity, just to keep things good, because who I think the worst patients, the ones who develop their own websites to slam you, they seem to always be the rhino patients, and they go to great lengths to do that. And that's a funny patient. So kudos to you. I had a rhinoplasty at a much later age, and I didn't even know I needed one until one of my plastic surgeon's friends said, "You should really get your nose fixed. You don't need a facelift. You need a nose job." And I thought, "Oh, thank you, sir." But I loved it. I loved it. It softened my look, but I was the easiest patient on the planet. I was like, "Can I just get rid of this bump? Thank you." And we were done. Speaking of which, are you using computer imaging? Because patients really like that. No?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do. I use it, but I'm not using it to sell surgery.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
using it to communicate. Just like you would take a patient's picture and you're both looking at it together at the
Yep.
same time. You're also looking at the changes and the goals that the patient has together at the same time, so to speak. But I'm not trying to perfect anything on the computer screen, and that's also a red flag. If you show someone, if someone has a big Roman nose and you make it pretty straight, and they're like, it's really good, but maybe a millimeter more. No, half a millimeter. No, okay, that's perfect. Now I want to have the surgery. No one has that much control, in a case. And that means they're telling you, I'm not going to be happy with a 99% improvement, right? I'm only going to be happy with perfect. And we know perfect is not possible. So that's a red flag. So I'm actually using it to actually interview the patient as well, right? And I like it in that some people take the photos that I've morphed and they remorph them, and make the nose tiny and pinched. And I'm like, I'm glad you did that, because that shows me that I'm not going to be able to deliver what you want. I'm not going to do that, and we're not a good match. We're just not a good match. And so I like to use it that way. Some colleagues are using it to sell the surgery. They make a perfect nose, they print it out, the patient's walking around with it like this, and they think that's what they're going to get. And you're not a 3D printing, robot. So I would be cautious about using it to sell surgery. I would do a little less than you think you can actually deliver,
Right.
and you're using it to kind of interview the patient from an aesthetic standpoint. If you do something that looks really nice, natural, and that you think you can achieve, and the patient's completely unsatisfied with it, or they're like more, more, then that's telling you that you may be cautious. You should be cautious about moving forward with that patient.
All right. So let's go on to the more fun stuff and positive, and that's marketing. And you people have that figured out. One of the reasons I wanted you on this podcast, I talk about this, I blog about it. It's called extreme targeting. And most surgeons are appalled at the thought of only having a certain target market or a certain procedure or a
Yep.
certain thing that catapults them to be different.
Yeah.
And you just jumped right in completely with that. As to, you even have blacknosejob.com URL. You have an email called ethnicplasticsurgery@gmail.com. If you look at social, you are called African American rhinoplasty, ethnic rhinoplasty before after, septal perforation surgery, Dr. Jason Hamilton. But you have absolutely bought into extreme targeting. And just tell me what that was like. And were you scared to death to do it, to be that targeted? Or, do you regret it, or has it actually catapulted you to get out of the fray of everybody else?
Yeah, I think what you alluded to. I like the way you kind of categorize that, like extreme, focus. It's an extreme focus.
Yeah.
I think it's catapulted me. It was always my interest anyway, but just kind of putting a stamp on it and saying this is who I am, and I'm okay with who I am, and this is what I do anyway. Let me just put a stamp on it. I think that's catapulted me in that sub market to heights that I probably wouldn't think were possible. It's catapulted me over just a regular practice too. I'm not. The numbers are busier than a busy surgeon, in my mind. And I couldn't do most of. I don't think I can do much more and not pull my hair out, but it's definitely been a positive force. But I'll tell you where it came from. One, I'm in a very competitive market, right? And so if you're just going to be another Botox injector, it's just going to be a price war at that point, right? A lot of doctors love rhinoplasty, especially in Los Angeles, big city. They love doing rhinoplasty. But I think the niche for me is that I've always, just as a student, a resident, and then practicing on my own, I found that specifically Black patients weren't getting great results on rhinoplasty. Michael Jackson, being a a
The
beacon,
poster child. Yeah.
yeah, poster child for that. And this is something that I was passionate about, and I feel I was doing a really good job at. And so I just said I'm going to put my stamp on it. I have some marketing advantages, and I'm going to use them. I am of African descent. I'm Black, so that helps.
Yep.
I'm a facial plastic surgeon. I love rhinoplasty, and I'm okay putting my stamp on it. If you look at the numbers, there were probably about let's just say 400,000 rhinoplasties last year in the U.S. In 2020 in the U.S. Probably down from the normal numbers, but that it's still the number one cosmetic surgery right now. Only about 5% of those are African American or African or described as African. So that does not seem like a good marketing strategy.
Right.
If 95% of the patients having rhinoplasties are going to be represented by a different ethnicity or race. And so, however, 5% of 400,000 is a lot of patients. That's more patients than I could do in my lifetime, and that's every year. You understand me? So if you can actually have the courage to focus on anything, because there's more than enough patients for you. There's more patients than you could ever operate on in your entire life. So being kind of super extreme focused has worked very well for me, because you get attention, you get immediate recognition for that if you're doing a good job and taking care of your patients. And it's harder, the entrance point for anyone else coming in. It's a little more difficult. You can't just jump in. It doesn't come out of a box, as I like to say to my staff and stuff. Wrestling, I can just open a box. Botox, I can just open a box. Cool sculpting, you just open the paddles, stick them on, turn on the sensor. But for you, if you're a surgeon, this is just my belief. If you're a surgeon, you have a unique set of skills. If you have a particular area of interest and you've developed, repeatable, great results, you should jump out. You should jump out. Especially in a big market, which sounds like the opposite of what you'd want to do. If I was in a small market, I probably would just stick with everything, because there's not a lot of competition. In a middle-sized town, there may only be a couple surgeons. They may be cordial to one another, and they all do different things. You should probably keep the breadth of your specialty. But if you want to compete, and you have a talent for something, I think it's okay to just focus on that. Now, when you let everything else go, you're going to see a nosedive.
That nobody can, they can't handle that.
You have to survive the phone not ringing. You have to survive the phone not ringing, and your schedule going to, turning white, basically. Like nothing's on the schedule, nothing's there. You have to be willing to survive that. But then when you're building back up, it's actually real. I like to say, if you just have a Botox practice, someone can set up shop across the street and have discounts, and you may lose, a percentage of those patients overnight. If you're super specialized, you're probably going to be okay. You're going to weather a lot of storms, and we've weathered a lot of storms. I trained, when I was training, it was during Katrina. Maybe 2 years after I was done practicing, the market crashed. Even doctors weren't referring patients because no one had insurance, so they were holding on to their patients as long as they could. I'm in LA. Plastic surgeons aren't going to refer patients to you. And then I've been through the pandemic. I've had a lot. I started out in the recession, so that kind of made me aware that things can change in your practice, and you want to have good stability. You want to build in something that can weather the storm. And I think extreme, specialization is one of those things. If people need those services, they will find you. And I'm diversified. I'm not just doing cosmetics. So the reconstructive part of my practice, if you fracture your orbit, you're not going to be able to just walk around with that until you conveniently ready to take care of it. So I think all of those things are like, people let trauma, they let the reconstruction kind of slide away from their practice, where I think it's a great part of plastic surgery. One of the most common performed procedures for all plastic surgeons, right? It almost trumps everything else, is reconstructive, like doing skin cancer work. There's a lot of work there for surgeons, and if you give it up, you're basically giving up your diversity, and you're not diversifying your practice. But when things are going well, there's a temptation to do that. I'm just really lucky that when I came out, things were going bad for everybody. So if you grew up in the Great Depression, you keep cans of peas, in the basement, just in case.
But back to extreme targeting, that allows you to charge an awful lot more, which I hope you are, because you have put all your eggs in this particular basket, or a lot of your eggs. And the patient now is being attracted to your expert status,
Yes.
your celebrity status. Like, you're hanging with the big boys. Now, you're also in Beverly Hills, so that hasn't hurt. But you've gotten some really killer PR from this.
Yeah.
You were on the doctors. By the way, is it kind of like a pay to play thing, or you had to pay somebody to do something to get on these shows, right?
No. Just from our branding and experience, we were contacted by the show to see if we could help, a particular patient. At least in our case, that's how it's always gone. We were on Dr. Pimple Popper, recently. And again, she contacted us just from our reputation to help her with, a case. So that's how it's gone for us. And what I'm saying is that's better than having to necessarily have a PR person. If you're just known as, okay, a lot of practices can do this, but when you have a real problem, this is where you go. We're those guys,
And that's what everyone wants. Like, when you have a patient who wants something like a facelift, who do you go to? You want your name to pop up, and that doesn't happen by accident. You have to focus on that and write about it and speak about it and do a lot of it and have a lot of people talking about it. How about the celebrity status you had, though? Because you are attracting. Can you just tell one story about that football player? I don't know anything about football, but Stephen Johnson. Did that kind of put you on the map and change your career a bit?
I think so, because everyone's aware of like orthopedic surgeons dealing with some shoulder injury on a football player, but there probably has never been an ENT or a facial plastics doctor that's going to be on ESPN. And so the Stephen Johnson had dropped 275-pound weight on his neck, basically crushing his larynx and his ability to breathe. And we got the call to come to come help out, and basically ended up saving his life and his career, because he was able to get back out on the football field. And that story through ESPN, running, almost every hour during the Christmas holiday,
Oh my God.
we got a lot of notoriety wherever I went. We were traveling to New York once, and it was on the Jumbotron, big screen in New York, Times Square, so that definitely catapulted us and made people aware that we do also take care of athletes, which, no one thinks an ENT doctor or facial plastics. You're thinking of orthopedics, but these guys break their nose, boxers break their jaws, and it just kind of put us on the map for that. And then we started getting contacted by athletes and sports teams and to take care of patients, and it really catapulted that part of my practice, and that also builds credibility, and then that allows you to build other parts of your practice. So we're going to stick with our plan. Seems to be working.
That's a great plan.
It's a slower, more meticulous road, but it pays dividends for a longer period of time, I think.
All right. So what's driving you? I like to talk about mindset. Like, how did you get to thinking like this? It doesn't sound like you grew up with uh, medicine, so that kind of came out of left field. But do you have a drive to help people? Ego gratification? What's driving you?
Um, Basically, my drive is initially I wanted to get into medicine um, because I wanted to be able to take care of myself and my family. Like, coming from Jamaica, we don't have access to this level of healthcare. When my grandmother, for example, had surgery, we had to buy the implant and take it, to the doctor and hand it to them. You have to bring food to the hospital and you have to feed your family member, bathe them, and you have to change the bedding. You're basically nursing. And that, children process things differently. That seems a little scary to me, and my fear was being in a position where I couldn't help my family or myself. So that was my initial interest in saying, hey, I think medicine would be a good choice because you can help your family. You can help people, and you don't have to live in fear. And so that was one of my drivers to get into medicine, and just being individually passionate about being excellent at something. That's really what I wanted to be excellent at something, and I think we all do. We all have those dreams, but we may not know how to do it. And I I wanted to feel like I could grow in medicine in an area where I could find an expertise and kind of really focus on that. And that's really my drive. Rhinoplasty gives you that. You'll never perfect it. You'll never perfect it. You're really practicing medicine in the sense that you can become as good as you are. And even when you get to the stage where maybe even patients don't know what you're talking about, where you're finding critiques on yourself, but you're finding them. You're finding those critiques, right? And you want to make them better. And the further you go in your career and you follow your patients, you get to see those long-term results. You get to see 10-year results, 15-year results. And then you think back and you're like, I'm not going to do that again. I'm gonna change what I do. And then I want to see how that turns out in 10 years. So it's very motivating and it's inspiring, and it's you're kind of like a tortured artist in that sense, because you're picking yourself apart, and it keeps you humble. So there's no ego involved in it. It's just it actually keeps you humble because you'll never perfect it. And agreeing to sign up for that challenge, right, is very humbling, and it keeps the passion going from myself,
Right.
from myself.
Well, the payoff's been fantastic. You just have a lovely practice, lovely demeanor, lovely reputation, great patience. I think you did Cardi B recently, or no, or
Uh,
no. There's
yeah.
Oh my God, you have a lot of good things going on there. And when you mentioned your dog, was it the dog, the therapy dog?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have well, I have my own dog, but we
Oh,
we do have a therapy dog that's part of the practice, Laney. And
oh,
that kind of grew out of COVID, and it's called Pause for Patients. It's part of our foundation. And Laney will go to different schools and help children with maybe learning disabilities, and the children will read to her. And just get to kind of have some comfort or the excitement. Who doesn't love a dog?
oh,
It
I
was
love
really big during COVID because people were isolated. So
it.
Lainey was even doing video, talks with kids, classrooms, and so it's been really popular. And it's therapy dogs are well known. Most people probably don't have one as part of their practice, but
Yeah.
it's very unique, and we're excited about her participation, and she's been able to, Lainey has been able to raise funds for us to do medical missions in other countries and help children and adults that have maybe cancer diagnoses or tumors or deformities that they can never have taken care of. because of resources in their country. And that's something I'm passionate about too. And that keeps me really humble because I have a good balance. I'm in Beverly Hills plastic surgery, and then I'm going to third world countries and seeing what real, poverty or lack of hope looks like. And it really balances things out for me. My kids get to see me do that. And I've brought my children with me on these trips. And so they get to see what the world looks like outside of our bubble. And I think that's important too. And I recommend that to anyone is to, you definitely want to give back, and you definitely want to see what the world looks like and what your gift is as a physician and what you can do outside of just your practice.
Excellent words of wisdom. I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'll be watching you grow, although you probably don't need any more growth. You're doing just fine. But everybody, if you did want to get a hold of Dr. Hamilton, you could go to blacknosechop.com. Yeah, and then it'll viral off onto different places, but he's doing a heck of a job. So I would take a look at that. So if you've got any questions for me or any feedback, please leave them at catherinemaley.com. You can certainly subscribe to Beauty in the Biz so you don't miss the future episodes. And then if you want to give me a DM on Instagram, it's Catherine Maley MBA. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon.